Hello, greetings everyone. This is Crypto Damas here, also known as the Astro Crypto Guru. I'm doing a little general astrology forecast update for YouTube for my YouTube subscribers, and this is going to be free, public, open to everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a lot of astrological stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks, but I want to bring your attention to a big event that's coming up here at the end of April. And we've got a cluster of a couple of different astrological events that I think are going to be very important. They're going to be important just generally, personally for the collective planet. They're going to be important for us personally. And of course, they're probably going to affect the markets as well. So let's get into it and take a look here. All of the events I'm going to talk about are just clustered around April 29th to April 30th. So on April 29th, we have the planet Pluto is in Capricorn, is going to station retrograde at 28 degrees Capricorn. So when Pluto stations twice a year, usually direct and retrograde, it's an energy shift for sure. And usually I'd say actually there's probably about 5 to 7 days on either side of that Pluto station, right? When a planet stations, when any planet actually stations, right? So it's moving kind of direct in its regular direct motion, vis-a-vis the Earth. And then it slows down, right? And then it stations, and then it goes retrograde, and then it starts moving backwards from the perspective of the Earth. So when a planet stations, when it slows down and really stops for a couple of days, the energy of that planet is really accentuated and felt more strongly. So when Pluto stations here on April 29th, we're going to really feel the energy of Pluto more strongly than usual. So what does that mean? What is the energy of Pluto? Well, Pluto is a very complex planet that encompasses the entire spectrum of birth, death, and rebirth. It's very shamanic type of archetypal energy, right? So Pluto rules breakdown, destruction, and death, but it also rules rebirth, regeneration, and evolution to a higher state. So it encompasses the entire cycle. So you never really know, whether when Pluto is really emphasized. Now, sometimes in the very hard aspects, you will definitely get a dramatic breakdown of the status quo. But you can also, Pluto can also bring power, and it can bring regeneration and renewal. Okay, so that's also a possibility that we could see. So usually around the time that Pluto stations, within a period of about 5 to 7, maybe 10 days, we often see a very big move in markets, global financial markets. So probably, and this is only one of the events that's happening. So we can see a big move. Now that could be a dramatic breakdown. It's possible. It also could be a powerful breakout, a smashing of resistance that's been holding the markets back. It really depends on the world events. Now the Federal Reserve is going to meet a few days later on May 2nd and 3rd, but that's a whole other ball of wax that we'll get into at another time. Also on April 29th, the planet Mercury is going to, I don't know what's going on, why the lighting is fluctuating here. That's weird. The planet Mercury is going to ingress into its home sign, its domicile of Gemini, which is generally speaking quite favorable. Mercury has dignity there, and it's the sign, Mercury in Gemini is the sign of a very quick mind, intelligence, and curiosity, information processing, and good communication skills. This is favorable, generally speaking, for communication, travel, technology. There's less glitches and snafus. Generally speaking, however, Mercury will retrograde around May 10th. So that's another issue. We will be in the shadow of that. The other thing is that Mercury in Gemini is kind of nervous. Okay. So it's very jittery. So even though it's strong and it represents intelligence and it has dignity and it's a favorable placement, there is this kind of nervous, jittery quality to it. So the collective nervous system will be in a heightened state, okay, during that period. Then that brings us up to the bigger event, which is the next day, okay? And that's going to be the April 30th solar eclipse. Now I want to show you, go to my astrology program that I'm using right now, which is the Luna Astrology cloud software. So just give me a second here. Actually, hey, you know what? I'm going to promote myself for a second here. Guys, if you want to really learn this stuff, check out my website, the Astro Crypto Report. It's astrocryptoreport.com. And we've got some, we do a lot of, we basically invented this new system we call it Astro TA, Astro Technical Analysis, which uses traditional technical analysis for markets combined with astrological factors. And if you guys already don't know, I'm one of the leading financial astrologers for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency markets. And if you're already not part of my Patreon group, check that out, where we break down these astrological events week by week, and we do a market forecast and weekly market updates. I also have just twice a month on Substack, if you're not really an active trader, but you still want that financial analysis. And we also do consultations, tutorials, and let me see, that's down here. And we also have educational programs. So I recommend one of these two are our best sellers, the Introduction to Basic Astrology for Beginners and the Complete Introduction to Financial Astrology combo package is $145. And as I was saying, I also do personal consults and tutorials. Okay, so now let's, go ahead and check out my website, guys, and let me know what you think. So let's go to my Luna Cloud software here, and I've got it set for the exact moment of this eclipse. This is the first eclipse, the first solar eclipse in Taurus. We did have a lunar eclipse in Taurus in November. That was a nasty one, conjunct the malefic fixed star Algol in November, when the Russian troop buildup started in the Ukraine. And we also saw cryptocurrency markets fall sharply. So that was a nasty eclipse. Now this eclipse, we don't know exactly, it's an unknown. I'm putting this eclipse, this is a very, eclipses in general are unpredictable events. They tend to have a rough edge. They're a bit chaotic, I would say, in generally speaking, right? An eclipse, what is an eclipse? What is an eclipse, generally speaking, has to do with the shadow, right? It's like literally a shadow is falling, on the earth oftentimes, or in front of the sun, right? When the moon comes in front of the sun, then that shadow will fall on the earth. So it's literally a shadow event, but I also think symbolically, it has a lot of connection to like the Jungian idea of like the shadow, which is our kind of unconscious mind, and it can bring up a lot of unconscious, kind of the darker shadow elements of the human psyche, right? And that can be hatred and violence or trauma, racism, white supremacy, war crimes, these kind of things that we've already seen recently. So it can bring up shadow events, and it's a confrontation with the shadow. If we meet the shadow with wisdom and compassion, it's actually an opportunity for spiritual growth and evolution. However, if we meet the shadow with fear and anxiety, then it can be a really even more challenging event. So mainly, I always recommend people, do meditation actually during eclipse days, to sort of calm the nervous system and keep that equilibrium balance, because eclipse days often bring up a lot of anxiety in people. So if you can do yoga or meditation or qigong, or even just, schedule that day to have a relaxing walk in nature and try to have a quiet, relaxing day. So now, not only our eclipses tend to be kind of rough and unpredictable, but this eclipse is actually conjunct the planet Uranus. And Uranus is, of course, a planet which represents the unpredictable, the surprise, the curveball, the unexpected event. So the eclipse conjunct Uranus has a double, it's kind of like a double testimony, or a very rough edge with a chaotic, unpredictable events. Now, it doesn't mean it's all bad. Uranus can be sudden, unexpected breakdowns. However, it can also be personal breakthroughs. Uranus can also represent creative genius and sudden flashes of insight. So, of course, we could also have access to sudden flashes of insight during this period. Eclipses can be really powerful events that can bring new insights into consciousness. So this is going to be a very interesting day. Now, like I said, it does have that kind of rough edge. However, what's so interesting about April 30th is it's also the day of what we call the conjunction of the benefics, the minor and major benefic planets, the most lucky good fortune planets, which is Venus and Jupiter are going to conjunct at around 27 degrees, 28 degrees Pisces. And that's an annual event. And that's usually the coming together of Jupiter and Venus usually brings a lot of good fortune and good news. It's a lucky event. It's usually good for markets and good for economic news. So this is very interesting how these two events are lining up. Now, what's also interesting is that basically I think really only once every 12 years are you going to get, do you get Venus and Jupiter conjuncting in Pisces where they both have dignity. So this is potentially a especially lucky event to watch out for. And what's even more interesting is this eclipse is in the sign of Taurus, as we said, and Taurus is ruled by Venus. Venus has exaltation in Pisces and is conjunct the benefic Jupiter. So hopefully, guys, this is going to mitigate the chaotic circumstances that are suggested by the eclipse and soften things and also bring, potentially some good fortune. Now, for global financial markets, eclipses can be pivotal events. They can often tend to bring extremes in market sentiment. They're not always bad. Sometimes you'll get very strong FOMO, fear of missing out, that drives a very strong rally. And on the other hand, we've also seen many cases where you can get panic sell-offs. So eclipses they're strong energies, and they bring very powerful sentiment. Now, this is a North Node eclipse, and those have a slightly more favorable tendency than the South Node eclipses. However, they can still be rough and chaotic. We saw that November eclipse actually was a North Node eclipse, and still we saw a crypto market crash. So, I'm not predicting that there's going to be a crash here. I'm neutral. This isn't, I would say, an unpredictable event for crypto markets. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see how this plays out. The Venus-Jupiter conjunction, that tends to be a bit more favorable. Now, the sign of Taurus is associated, it's the bull. It's associated with prosperity. It's a wealth sign. It is a wealth sign. It's also a sign of stability and kind of status quo. So this eclipse conjunct Uranus and Taurus is gonna shake things up. It's definitely gonna shake up the status quo and shake up stability. It's probably gonna bring some. Hopefully, it's probably gonna bring some more very big news events from the war in Ukraine, and as I said, the Fed the U.S. central bank is going to be meeting about 2 or 3 days later. Now, the interesting thing about eclipses, solar eclipses, is, as I said, they're often felt, anywhere from a week to 2 weeks, even before and after they happen, right? So they have like an orb of about, 2 to 4 weeks around them. So they're really going to have an energetic kind of effect, on everyone. So these are some big events that are coming up here at the end of April that I just wanted you guys to be aware of and give you a little bit of information about that. Now, I do actually live video forecasts and analysis for crypto markets on my Patreon. And we also do that. We also do that in the written updates on Patreon too, kind of breaking down all the different factors, all the different aspects, ingresses, retrogrades. Now, positively in May, we've also got some big shifts. I'm not going to talk about that too much. In the next video, we're going to talk about this. Also, we have a similar day, which has a lot of activity on, I think it's May 10th. where Jupiter goes into Aries and also Mercury goes retrograde on the same day. So that's very interesting. Those are both big shifts. Now, Jupiter in Aries is a very big shift, right? Because Jupiter only changes signs really about, once a year or so forth. So that's going to be a big new cycle too. And that shift from Pisces, which is the 12th and last sign, to Aries, which is the first sign, that's a new 12-year cycle. So it's not just Jupiter changing signs. It's a big, fresh, new beginning. And like I said, enigmatically, actually, Mercury is going to be going retrograde, kind of pushing us back. So we're going to have Jupiter, it's like wanting to take that leap into the new 12-year cycle. And Mercury saying, no, for about 3 weeks, you've got some unfinished business to attend to. So anyway, that's just a little preview into May. I hope you find these little videos helpful and interesting. I'm going to be hopefully trying to put out a couple of these a month, maybe one a week if we can find the time. But again, thanks for joining us. If you're not following me on Twitter, I'm CryptoDamus at Astro Crypto Guru. And please check out my website, Astro Crypto, www.astrocryptoreport.com. That is all my information about subscriptions, educational programs for people who want to really learn about this stuff, this astrology and financial astrology, and also private consults and tutorials. Okay, guys, have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for coming.